It's the first day of April here in Korea. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Business Daily. I'm Lee Ji-yoon. Let's get started by taking a look at today's highlights. Korea is hoping to attract over 8 million Chinese tourists this year. And the key to making that wish come true? Not just group tours, but mega group tours. With this year's Nuclear Security Summit currently underway in Washington, D.C., we take a look at what topics are being discussed, as well as the sideline meetings taking place between world leaders. These stories and more coming right up. But first, Korea's exports have been falling for the longest period on record now. But the pace of decline in March slowed significantly. So, are conditions picking up? Our Kim Min-ji has the details.
Korea's exports took another dive last month. According to the Trade Ministry, exports fell over 8% in March from the same month last year to $43 billion. It marks the 15th straight month of decline and the longest downward streak ever, breaking the previous record of 13 months from March 2001. But what's noteworthy is that the pace of decline slowed. Since December last year, outbound shipments posted double-digit drops, and January saw the biggest on-year decline in nearly 6 years.
Exports shrank by a single-digit figure in March thanks to an uptick in exports of steel products and mobile communication devices. Shipments of semiconductors fell, but the rate of drop significantly slowed thanks to a demand for new smartphones.
However, exports of petroleum products and petrochemicals drove the overall decline, while falling export prices also pulled the figure down. Imports, on the other hand, fell almost 14% to $33.2 billion, also falling for the 15th straight month. With that, the trade surplus came to $9.8 billion, extending the surplus streak to 50 straight months. Like previous months, what's worrisome is that the surpluses have mainly been driven by a sharp decrease in imports rather than an increase in exports. Although outbound shipments improved a touch last month, experts say it's too early to say that they are on recovery track.
The pace of decline has slowed, but it's still a large drop. The global economy is facing a slowdown, and China's growth has also slowed, which means demand is weak. Although there may be improvements in certain industries, overall conditions don't look as though they will pick up even in the second half of the year.
This is why experts are calling for long-term measures, such as moving away from a set number of concentrated export items and diversifying goods to cater to the needs of certain markets. Kim Min-ji, Business Daily.
Korea's consumer prices gained at least 1% for the second straight month in March. According to a report by Statistics Korea, the country's consumer price index rose 1% last month from a year earlier, slightly lower than February's 1.3%. The agency said the rise was driven by prices of agricultural products, which jumped over 5% on year due to a supply shortage of staple farm products like onions and garlic. Prices of fresh food, including vegetables and fruits, jumped to 9.7% over the same period. Core inflation, which excludes volatile oil and food prices, rose 1.9% on year, down 0.1 percentage point from a year ago. To say China was quite active in the global M&A scene in the first 3 months of this year is an understatement, as mainland companies took up roughly 1/6 of all M&A activities in the world. According to the Financial Times, out of a total of $682 billion worth of deals made in the first quarter, 15% involved Chinese dealmakers, which is the country's largest quarterly share on record. Experts say this boom somewhat reflects concerns over the strength of the renminbi and suggests that the aggressive M&A activity is in some ways similar to a capital outflow. China's biggest outbound deal in the first quarter was state-owned chemical firm ChemChina's takeover of a Swiss biotechnology company, Syngenta, for $43.8 billion. Samsung Electronics saw the global market share of its semiconductors improve in 2015, while its handsets and TV divisions continue to lose ground. According to a business report from Samsung, its share in the global DRAM market gained 5.7 percentage points to secure 45.3% last year. The tech giant said while falling demand of mobile devices had put a dent in growth, it expects demand for server and other high-capacity memory chips to continue. Meanwhile, Samsung's global handset market share fell 1.3 percentage points last year to 21.1%. Despite the decline, the company said it expects the sales of its smartphones to improve down the line on the back of the better-than-expected performance from its Galaxy S7 series released just last month. Its TV unit also shed market share, inching down 1.6 percentage points last year to 21% amid a global market downturn. The number of mobile subscribers in Korea is set to break the 60 million mark by the end of this year, which far exceeds the country's population. According to the Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning, the number of subscribers to mobile network services, including those for wearable devices, reached 59 million at the end of February. The figure indicates that an increasing number of people have more than one mobile account, as Korea's population currently stands around 51.5 million. The number of mobile subscribers rose nearly 190,000 in February alone, with over 70,000 wearable and Internet of Things users. An increasing number of massive group tours from China are pouring into Korea. The bigger, the better is how many see it, as travelers in the thousands can mean spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per day on food alone. Our Lee Ju-young tells us more.
Despite being a Monday, when one of Korea's main palaces, Changdeokgung, is usually closed, a huge crowd of Chinese tourists are making their way inside. That's because the palace has opened specially for a group of 6,000, the palace's maximum capacity for a day. These tourists are employees of Arirang International Beauty Group, a cosmetics and health supplement company in Guangzhou, and the week-long trip is a reward for good performance on the job. It's become known as the largest tourist group to visit Korea so far, requiring 158 flights to bring them together from 24 Chinese cities.
Unlike Chinese palaces, here there seems to be harmony between nature and the environment.
Besides sightseeing and shopping, they also enjoyed a meal of 1,500 fried chickens along with beer, a new pairing made popular in China by a hit Korean TV drama. Thanks to the sheer size of this mega group, the money it's spent including on food and accommodation, admission tickets for tourist sites, and venue rental fees, Korea Tourism Organization says it projects the visit will have generated roughly $10 million in economic effects. But in May, an even bigger group of 8,000 Chinese tourists is set to visit the country, followed by a couple more gargantuan gatherings scheduled for the coming months. Korea Tourism Organization says when people visit on travel incentives through their companies, they spend about 1.8 times more per person than those who visit independently. This is why it's actively catering to these large groups. Especially in line with the Visit Korea Year initiative, the country has been exempting visa fees for Chinese group travelers and has added 6 new air routes between the two nations since February, with the aim of attracting a total of 30 mega group tours this year, compared to 22 last year. But while these mass tours may bring in a lot of money, experts say the industry also needs to offer a wider variety of tourist attractions other than shopping centers and drama filming locations to make sure a greater number of group tourists will revisit the country in the future. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
It's Friday, and today we're going to take a special look at the Nuclear Security Summit currently taking place in Washington, D.C. World leaders from dozens of countries, including Korea's President Park Geun-hye, is there. And our Eunice Kim joins me in the studio to tell us more about this global summit. Hello, Eunice.
Hello.
All right, so I understand this is the 4th and final Nuclear Security Summit. And while there has been progress over the years, I understand that there's still a ways to go.
Right, in fully securing the nuclear materials. Now, the U.S.
U.S., of course, has led these international gatherings. And this year will be the final year because it's also the final year of U.S. President Barack Obama's term. So we take a look back at the gains as well as the work still left to be done. Take a look. Nuclear security was propelled into the limelight of global dialogue beginning in 2009. In Prague, U.S. President Barack Obama, in his first foreign policy speech, called nuclear threat the greatest danger. And over his two-term presidency, from Washington, D.C. to Seoul to The Hague, world leaders have held discussions on how to clamp down on nuclear stockpiles while keeping them from the reach of terrorists. Back where it began, this year's summit convenes delegates from 56 countries and features its first special session on the Islamic State group. There are real concerns terrorists could get their hands on radioactive material to make deadly, dirty bombs. And while authorities have yet to make concrete links, the IAEA reports thousands of cases of unauthorized possession, illicit trafficking, or loss of nuclear materials since the mid-1990s. A big part of the concern is cash-strapped North Korea, which now stands more vulnerable. With the adoption of the latest round of UN sanctions, a local think tank estimates the state's outbound shipments could be cut by nearly half. In marathon meetings on the sidelines of the nuclear summit, South Korea's President Park Geun-hye was joined by her U.S., Chinese, and Japanese counterparts in applying further pressure on the reclusive state.
저는 전례 없이 강력한 안보리 대북 제재 결의 2270호가 채택된 만큼 이제 중요한 것은 결의를 철저히 이행해 나감으로써 북한이 핵포기 없이는 생존할 수 없음을 깨닫게 하는 것이라고 봅니다.
Among key accomplishments in recent years is the gradual elimination of highly enriched uranium. A 2-kilogram bag of it is said to have the potential to wipe out hundreds of thousands of people. The two countries with the biggest stockpiles, Russia and the U.S., are confirmed to have cut or downblended enough HEU to build more than 6,600 nuclear weapons, while foreign material enough to make 150 nuclear weapons have been removed or disposed. 12 countries are now free of highly enriched uranium, while authorities have installed radiation detection equipment at checkpoints around the globe. But watchers say there is still plenty of work ahead in addressing vulnerabilities and securing nuclear material at a time when terrorism is only becoming bolder. A DC-based watchdog, the Nuclear Threat Initiative, notes progress has slowed since the Hague summit, with virtually no gains in boosting on-site protection, security during transport, and the ability to recover lost radioactive materials. Meanwhile, the world's stockpiles of nuclear materials could grow, as Japan, India, and Pakistan have known plans to build new factories to obtain plutonium. So in a few hours, leaders in Washington will open their second and final day of meetings under the Nuclear Security Summit umbrella. Now, could you tell us more about some of the dangers seen outside of states like North Korea possibly selling their nuclear technology?
Sure. So there are some real concerns about the security or non-security of these facilities that hold nuclear and nuclear-related materials. Now, the watchdog Nuclear Threat Initiative released a report ahead of this summit, which showed that the threats are not limited to physical facilities, but also online. In its Nuclear Security Index, 7 out of 24 countries holding weapons-grade material received the lowest possible score for their facilities' cybersecurity, including China and Belgium. And speaking of Belgium, the site of the latest Islamic State-claimed terror attacks, in 2014, one of its nuclear power plants had become a site of sabotage when someone tampered with a system connected to the turbine. Later, at least 2 workers who had inside access at the plant were confirmed to have gone to fight for the Islamic State group.
Then what can we expect to see at the end of the summit then?
Sure. Well, we know a communication communique will be issued and a press conference will be held at the end. But certainly a key question will be what kind of concrete plans will be agreed upon to keep this momentum going. The White House has said it's aiming for a series of action plans to be signed that will guide how countries work together on key areas such as nuclear smuggling, cybersecurity, and threats to nuclear facilities. But Ji-yoon, one important note here, a very important absence. Russia did not attend this year's nuclear summit amid diplomatic tensions with the U.S., of course, over Ukraine-related economic sanctions. So the end result may not be a perfect one.
But still definitely a lot to look forward to after the second and final day comes to an end, right?
We'll keep our eyes on it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today, Eunice.
You bet.
And that wraps it up for today and this week. But we'll be back next week with more, so don't forget to tune in then. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.